Good day all, South African Prep here. So for this video, the benefits of living in a dysfunctional state. So that's quite a negative thing, is a country that doesn't work. So how do I get to there's a benefit of living in a dysfunctional state? So in order for us to understand this ridiculous statement from my side, is let's use our own country, South Africa, as an example. So a dysfunctional state is a country where things don't work. So in South Africa, we've got the Eskom problem of load shedding or blackouts. So that is dysfunctional. We have got in the bigger cities, we've got water crises. So the rivers being polluted with sewage, people not getting water to their houses because of infrastructure busy crumbling, and the municipalities not being able to maintain and fix this infrastructure properly. Safety and security is a consequence of a dysfunctional state. So on the back of that, it's quite interesting that South Africans have managed to actually carve out a living in a dysfunctional state. And this is something that nobody talks about, and this is something that nobody actually realizes, is that if you are watching this video and you are a South African, you are living and carving out a living in South Africa whilst the state is dysfunctional. Now, there's quite a few positive things about living in a dysfunctional state, and we'll get that to that a little bit later. But what this dysfunctional state has caused, it has caused for us as South Africans to make a plan. There's a saying, a boer maak 'n plan. We make a plan for everything. So we have literally created almost a parallel system. So you've got the government here, and you've got the civil society parallel system that is basically running next to it. So what do I mean by this? Let's use an example. Let's take safety and security. So the police services are here, and then you've got private security. Now it's quite ironic because private security is 3 times bigger in South Africa than the police service in South Africa. Okay? They are better armed and better trained than the South African police services. So that is parallel to the dysfunctional state. Another good example is, if you can afford it, you basically take out medical aid, and when you go to a private hospital, the quality of that service is sometimes even world class. So again, you have government hospitals that is totally dysfunctional, and on this side you have got private hospitals that are sometimes even world class in a third world country. So South Africans have managed over the last 30 years, because of a dysfunctional country, they've managed to create a parallel system in order for them to be able to survive in South Africa. And I do not think you will find this anywhere else in the world, where there's a private parallel system to government. And we don't realize this, but you as a South African have been working and living in this country under a government that is dysfunctional, a government that is making race-based laws against white people, yet we are still carving out a living in South Africa. You are very, very unique in a sense that we tend to just make a plan. And that is why you'll see that a lot of our friends and families, they go work abroad. And the reason for that is that South African, and especially white South Africans, and maybe to a degree Indian South Africans and black, certain small percentage of black South Africans as well, are highly valued in the workforce in other countries. Because number one, we are skilled. We are skilled. I mean, look at Elon Musk, the richest man in the world. He grew up in Pretoria. Can you imagine that? Skilled like you cannot believe it, from our backyard. So South African workers are extremely highly regarded across the world, for the reason that we are so used to living in a dysfunctional system. And once we actually go abroad and we work in a functional system, we outwork, we outgrow, we outpace most workers in that specific country. Because of the fact that we are consistently, and where we grew up in South Africa, we are consistently busy trying to resolve problems that a dysfunctional state has caused. So you watching this video, if you are a South African, you are extremely unique. I've said it before, and I've said it many times in my videos. When you put 100 South Africans in a room and you have to resolve an issue, you'll have 110 different plans on how to resolve the issue. And the reason for that is specifically because of the state being dysfunctional. Now this puts South Africans in a very unique position. Let's take a municipality in a town, for example. There's a small little town called Reddersburg. Now Reddersburg, actually, they were falling apart. The municipality is bankrupt, they couldn't provide services. So the residents of this specific town managed to start providing the services that the municipality is doing themselves. Suddenly things started working. Suddenly the water problem was resolved. Suddenly the roads are a little bit better. Suddenly the garbage problem is a little bit better. Because they took it upon themselves to actually start doing or delivering the services themselves. And that is one major benefit of a dysfunctional state, because it allows us as South African citizens to take up the responsibility and do it ourselves. And that is the big thing about this dysfunctional state. You guys remember 2020, and it was quite a funny time. You remember when people sat at home, the videos and the games people played and posted on Facebook about the silly things that they started doing at home. You remember the egg thing and the charcoal bag over the head. People became criminals overnight because they wanted a beer or a whiskey or a brandy. We all became criminals overnight because we all wanted to have a nice Friday night party in our house by ourselves, because lockdown was quite hectic and you weren't allowed to buy alcohol. And that's what makes South Africans different. We made a plan, although it was a shitty situation sitting at home, we made a plan to entertain ourselves. And overnight, all of us became criminals. You remember that? Quite ironic. The one thing that they tried to force upon us made us being creative. It made us think out of the box. Now here's the last thing about a dysfunctional government. And especially this specific government. For some reason over the last 30 years, and this is by the way, this is a communist way of slowly encroaching on your rights and slowly but surely changing rules and regulations. You all know the story of the frog in the boiling pot, and the water is slowly heating up. So that's what they've been doing over the last 50 years. They've been slowly, every single day, every single month, every single year, they've been adding behind the scenes rules and regulations and stacking them up as high as, or even higher as the union building. You cannot believe the rules and regulations we have in this country. It is absolutely madness. But the benefit of a dysfunctional government, even though they have regulations and rules stacked up as high as the union buildings, they can actually not enforce it. They cannot enforce it because they do not have the capacity, they do not have the skilled labor to enforce it. I'll give you an example. There's only one government entity in South Africa that works properly. I mean, world class, it actually works. Only one. And that is the South African Revenue Service. And maybe to a degree, I must say the Reserve Bank is fairly okay as well, although they are being influenced by the ANC. But the South African Revenue Service is the one thing in this country that works. Nothing else in this country works apart from that. And it's quite interesting that it actually works because they need, in order for them to keep this dysfunctional government running, remember, they only care about one thing, their own pockets. The fat cats in the ANC and the parliament, those 400 parliament members, they only care about themselves. We have proven this over and over again. And they need the revenue service to work because they need to pay themselves. And they need to pay the 28 million grant recipients. By the way, I think we spent 450 billion rand a year on social grants. They need the revenue service to work. And then on top of the 28 million grant recipients, we have another 2 million government employees. And being a government employee, believe me, you are well paid, you are underworked, overpaid and underworked. I've heard of stories where people just go to the office because they are just expected to go to the office. They don't even know what job they do. So already in South Africa, we have got a parallel system running. And this is why I think there is hope for us in South Africa. There is hope in South Africa because regardless of the dysfunctional state of South Africa, we have managed to stay afloat on the private side, not on the government side, on the private side. We've managed to keep on building regardless of the 142 racial laws against South Africans. And there are people in South Africa, businesses that still do good business, that still make money. Yes, it's flipping hard and frustrating. And there's a lot of factors that frustrate you and makes life difficult for you. But we are still managing to carve out businesses and a living in South Africa. And if we did this the last 50 years, what can we do as white South Africans if one day we can congregate within something like a Volksstaat and we do exactly the same? You know, in apartheid, when the sanctions were the highest, you know what the apartheid government did? They decided that we need engineers, for an example, to work at Eskom. They flew them over to wherever, I think it was Germany if I'm not mistaken, the Eskom engineers, and they spent time there learning about electricity, learning how to build these coal-fired plants, learning how to process steel and to work those big smelters. And that is why Eskom started, and that is why Iscor started, and that is why Armscor and Denel, and we can carry on, Spoornet and all those places. because they spend the time and the money to educate our people on how to create. And that stuck with us. Believe me, it has stuck with us in the last 50 years. How is it possible for a guy like Elon Musk growing up in Pretoria and becoming the most wealthiest man in the world? You are just as a South African. You are a special breed. This is South African Prepper. God bless.